Hey, welcome to Plants Are My Therapy, and today we're going to be talking about the ZZ plant, or the ZZ plant if you're in England, the zuzu plant, I assume in Africa. It's also known as the eternity plant, the Aroid Palm, and the emerald palm, which I think is a nice name. The scientific name is this. A few months ago, maybe almost a year ago, I made a video on how to propagate the ZZ plant, and I'm always working in the garden, but I'm not always videotaping in the garden. So when I decided to make a video on propagating the ZZ plant, I didn't have any video of me actually propagating one, so I used the video of me propagating a Sansevieria. Now, propagating the Sansevieria is very similar, if not identical, to propagating a ZZ plant, but I understand it's not the same plant, and some people got thrown off and upset, and I appreciate people being polite. You know, the ZZ plant and the snake plant, they are very similar plants. They look vastly different, but the care of them are very similar. They both make excellent house plants because they are very sturdy house plants. They can handle little to some direct light. They prefer it dry, so if you overwater it, just let it dry out. In fact, don't water the plant unless it's dry first. And if you can go a couple days without watering it, these plants can handle it. I think actually they prefer it. The ZZ plant, like the Sansevieria, are rated by NASA scientists as one of the best air purifying plants, ridding the air of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, styrene, benzene, formaldehyde, and all the gases caused by modern conveniences. These are my ZZ plants, and all of these plants were propagated from a couple of plants that I bought maybe 3 to 4 years ago. And I've actively and passively propagated these plants. These plants are, well, they're slow growing at times, but they're pretty easy to propagate. I've propagated these plants by division, by leaflets, and by leaves. Actually, it gets a little confusing because when you look at the ZZ plant, you look and you see that, oh, that's a stem with leaves on it, but actually that stem is a leaf, like a palm tree, and those little leaves that look like leaves, those are leaflets. A lot of times I called what looks like a stem, and what looks like a leaf, instead of a leaf and leaflets. I will try to be consistent. This is one of my oldest ZZ plants. It's about 3 to 4 years old, and when I first bought it, it was just a small little $12 plant in I think it was a 6-inch pot. I cared for it, and it grew, and I repotted it, and it grew, and I repotted it. I continued to repot it until it ended up in the pot kind of too big for me to take into the house, and I don't want to propagate this plant. I mean, I love this plant, and I seen outside one of the doctor's office a huge ZZ plant, and I'm hoping that this plant will get that huge because it makes quite a statement. My other ZZ plants I did propagate to make other plants, and I'm very happy with them because they do very well inside the house with little care, and they always look great. One of my ZZ plants was knocked off the table by one of the cats, and even that one is looking good. In fact, it's actually growing faster than the others. This plant that I'm showing you right now, I forgot it was next to my desk in the office, and I don't think I watered this plant. Maybe I watered it when I first put it there once or twice. Actually, I don't even remember watering it twice. I found it because I went through the house to look for all the ZZ plants so I can just water it one time. It's so easy to just put it off and just say, oh, I'll water it later, because you got to water it till the water comes out through the bottom, but then you have to make sure it drains completely so it doesn't sit in water. And this takes time and effort, so I've discovered a better way to water these plants. But look at this plant. I didn't take care of it for almost 6 months, and it put out a shoot. Poor thing, that shoot will probably be as thick as these if I actually remember to water it. This plant was next to the kitchen, so it's easy to grab a little bit of water, just splash it on there when you think it's dry, and said, oh, this will hold you over until I have time to water you. And it's doing fine, but if I put more care to it, I bet you it would have done well. This one was next to a closet in the spare bedroom that I haven't been using, so I forgot about it too. I think I may have watered it once since I put it in there about 6 months ago. It's you can tell it's struggling, but it's doing fine. This is the one that was knocked over by the cat, and it's actually growing faster. I mean, these new shoots came out after I stuck it back in the pot, and I figured, oh, I'll fix it later. But there's always something to do. There's always something happening, especially when you have 4 kids, and they're just things they have to do. But look at this. These are very healthy shoots, and I'm trying to figure out how to fix this plant. And anyways, I've propagated ZZ plants by division, or sticking cuttings directly in the soil, or starting cuttings in water. This cutting, I found it fell off a plant from a building, and it was just laying there on the sidewalk, and well, I figured I'd just pick it up and just plant it. And it's amazing. This plant is very resilient. This is the same plant just a couple of days after I potted it. This is the same cutting only a couple months later. This is the original cutting that I found on the sidewalk just laying there, and then these are the new growths that had happened since then, and it's only been a couple of months. This is the plant that I keep inside my second bathroom, and it does really well over there, even though there's only one small little window for light. I've noticed that one of the kids was watering it, and these plants cannot handle being overwatered, but that was easily fixed. I just changed it to a brighter spot where it got brighter indirect light, and it just perked up again. Recently, most of my ZZ plants I just passively propagate by just sticking a branch in some soil, letting it grow roots, and if it does well, then I'll repot it. This is another branch that fell off a plant that I was propagating, and instead of just throwing it away, I just stuck it in a pot, stuck it with some soil, and these are all the new growth that got. This is another pot that I got from branches that just fell off another branch, but this is the biggest surprise. These little scrawny little pieces I just stuck in a pot, and look how healthy the new growth is. This plant just started with those 2 little skinny twigs, and look at the plant that's coming out. It already developed a big root, and another shoot is coming out through the back. And this has been maybe about 4 months, and I don't know when I propagated this plant because I just found it today. I stuck it in the front garden. I didn't even know I had ZZ plants in the front garden, and it's nice. It's growing a little off, but it's nice. And these are all from passive propagation. This is how I propagate the ZZ plant from division. It's hard to divide a plant because when the plant starts to grow nice, it's nice and you don't want to disturb it. But this plant is beginning to suffer. Some of the leaves are yellowing, and it'll natural yellow, but then there's smaller shoots that's coming off the sides, and this pot is bulging. And this is the problem that I have with most of my ZZ plants. I cannot remove the plant without destroying the pot. I can press down on the root ball, and it does have some give, but I don't want to destroy the root ball. I want to give the divided divisions the best chance they can in thriving, and crushing the roots is probably not the best way. So I'm going to start planting ZZ plants in those cheaper, thinner growers pots instead of these regular pots. It's a couple dollars cheaper, but if I'm going to destroy it, I might as well get one of those cheaper ones. And look how healthy the root ball is, and don't get rid of the roots. Don't trim the roots, because I noticed that the shoots will come out from the roots. You see, this is the problem that I'm surprised that the ZZ plant could handle, because I put a layer of gravel, which I don't do anymore, on the bottom, and that causes the perched water table to rise, and maybe that's why the roots grow so well. I used to be very gentle with these plants, not too gentle. This method looks cruel, but these plants can handle it, and then when you're done, you end up with plants that look like they were growing in the pot for a while. And since you end up with bigger plants, it makes a bigger statement. It just looks better. I like bigger plants because it looks much better in a room, and it doesn't look as cluttered as when you have a lot of little plants. I mean, I like little plants in a room, and I think little plants look great by the windowsill, but throughout the room, if you have all these little plants scattered everywhere, it just looks, well, it just looks cluttered. And I like keeping the roots, well, as intact as you can be. And with the soil, I'm trying to, besides not putting gravel on the bottom, which will affect the perched water table, I'm trying to be less fussy with the soil recipe. And I'm going to see how that goes, at least with the plants like the ZZ plants, the pothos, the Sansevieria, and the philodendrons, because well, those plants aren't that picky. I only have in this soil mixture approximately just 2 parts of potting soil and 1 part of perlite, and this is to, well, it's fresh soil, so there's more nutrients in this soil for these plants, and the perlite makes the, well, the soil more airier for better drainage and for lighter moisture retention. Originally, I was just going to divide this plant into 2, but then I noticed a natural divide between this section, so now I'm going to end up with 3 plants. And this is how I pot the divisions. I no longer put a layer of gravel on the bottom of the pots because that affects the perched water table, and I probably have lost a lot of plants because I was unaware of the perched water table. And if you guys want to learn about the perched water table, check out Danielle Tells or Betsy Begonia. Both of them have done really good videos on the perched water table. Speaking of YouTubers, Roy from Voodoo Garden suggests when you pack in the soil in your plant, don't press any harder than you would upon your eyelids. I press hard enough just to support the plants, and then I tap the pots to make sure some of the soil gets in there to avoid any air pockets that may hinder the plant's growth or kill the plants. I also water the plants right after I pot them just to help settle the soil inside the pots. To finish, I put a layer of sand or gravel on the top to decrease the risk of the soil drying out and dusting out inside the house or splashing out when I water the plants. And this is how I water the plants now. I just take all the ZZ plants outside into the patio the evening before, and I just hose it down. This will wash the leaves. It will, I just soak these plants until the water drains out through the drainage holes, and I just leave them out to dry overnight. And then, unless it rains, then in the morning it's ready to go back in this place inside the house. I hope you were able to learn from my trials and errors. I want to thank each of you for watching. Thank you. I hope you like this video. I hope you subscribe to my channel. And, well, aloha.